I never planned to cheat. That's the lie I tell myself when I replay everything in my head. Because if I'm honest, the signs were there long before it happened. We weren't unhappy. That's what makes this worse. She trusted me completely. She used to fall asleep with her phone unlocked on the nightstand. She never checked mine, never asked where I was, never doubted me. And somehow, that trust became invisible, like air. You don't notice it until you suffocate. At work, things were different. I spent more time there than at home. Late meetings, deadlines, excuses that were true, until they weren't. Her name was Emma. She wasn't my type. That's another lie people use. She wasn't prettier than my wife. She wasn't smarter. She wasn't special in any obvious way. But she listened. She laughed at my jokes. She noticed when I was tired. She asked questions my wife stopped asking years ago. Not because my wife didn't care, but because she thought she already knew me. Emma didn't know me, and that made me feel interesting again. It started harmless. Coffee breaks, inside jokes, messages that stayed professional. Technically, I told myself I deserved attention. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I would stop if it crossed a line. That's how people lie to themselves before they ruin everything. The night it happened, I didn't wake up thinking, today I will betray my wife. I woke up thinking it was just another normal day. Work, dinner, drinks, everyone tired, everyone loose. Emma sat next to me. Her knee touched mine under the table. It stayed there longer than an accident. I noticed, and I didn't move. That was the first real choice I made. Later, outside, she asked you if I wanted to walk instead of taking a taxi. I should have said no. I didn't. We talked about nothing. About work. About stress. About how weird life feels sometimes. Then she stopped walking. She looked at me and said, "Do you ever feel like you're playing a role in your own life?" That question hit harder than any flirtation. I kissed her, not because I wanted her, but because I wanted to feel something else. I won't romanticize what happened next. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't love. It was fast, messy, quiet, and the moment it was over, I felt sick, not guilt, fear, because I knew something worse than cheating had just begun. I went home. My wife was asleep. I stood in the bathroom, staring at myself, trying to recognize the man in the mirror. I washed my hands like that could erase anything. I got into bed. She moved closer to me in her sleep, and I realized something terrifying. I wasn't planning to confess. I cheated, and I didn't confess. Part 2, living with a lie. The days after felt unreal, not dramatic, not chaotic, normal, and that terrified me. My wife kissed me goodbye in the mornings, asked how my day was, complained about small things that suddenly felt enormous. She trusted me, and every time she did, something inside me tightened. I expected guilt to destroy me. It didn't. Guilt is loud in movies. In real life, it's quieter. It sits in your chest and waits. I didn't tell Emma it was a mistake. I didn't tell her anything. We avoided each other at work for a few days. Not because we were mature, because we were scared. When our eyes met across the office, there was no spark, just panic. The first lie came easily. My wife asked you if something was wrong. I said I was just tired. She believed me. That was when I realized how dangerous trust really is. At night, I lay awake listening to her breathe. I replayed the moment again and again, trying to understand why I hadn't stopped myself. I wasn't unhappy. I wasn't neglected. I wasn't lonely. So why? I started overcompensating. More affection, more attention, more "I love you." She smiled more, relaxed. I felt like a thief returning stolen goods. At work, Emma eventually messaged me. Just one sentence. I can't stop thinking about it. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I typed, deleted, typed again. Me neither. That was my second real choice. After that, the fear changed shape. It wasn't about being caught anymore. It was about maintaining the lie. I memorized my schedule, deleted messages obsessively, checked my tone before speaking, I became careful, and careful people look suspicious even when they aren't. I started imagining scenarios. What if she checked my phone? What if Emma slipped? What if someone noticed? The paranoia followed me everywhere. That's the punishment people don't talk about. Emma wanted to talk about us. I didn't. Not because I loved my wife more, because I didn't want more consequences. One afternoon, she cornered me near the elevators. "Are you going to pretend this didn't happen?" she asked quietly. I told her it was a mistake. She looked hurt. That look almost made me confess everything. Almost. That night, my wife told me she felt closer to me lately, that we were better. She said she was glad we were reconnecting. I smiled, and felt like I was watching someone else's life. Confession hovered in my mind constantly. I imagined the conversation, her face, her silence, her questions. I imagined losing everything. And every time, fear won. I told myself confessing would only hurt her, that keeping quiet was protecting her, that my guilt was the price I had to pay. That lie felt noble. It wasn't. It was cowardice disguised as care. The affair didn't continue physically, but it didn't end either. It lived in messages, in looks, in tension, and that made it worse. I noticed something else happening too. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. I lied easily. I manipulated conversations. I hid parts of myself effortlessly. I was good at it. That scared me more than the cheating. One evening, my wife took my phone by accident. Nothing happened. She just wanted to look something up. My heart stopped anyway. That reaction told me everything I needed to know. She noticed. She asked why I looked so tense. I laughed it off. She didn't push. She trusted me. Emma eventually said something that shook me. "Do you ever feel like you're living two lives?" I didn't answer, because the truth was unbearable. I started wondering which version of me was real. The husband who said goodnight every evening, or the man who carried a secret everywhere he went. I began to realize something important. Cheating wasn't the worst thing I'd done. Staying silent was. Every day I didn't confess, I made a decision again. Not once. Every morning. Every conversation. Every kiss. And the longer I waited, the harder confession became. Because the truth grows heavier with time. And I was running out of places to hide it. By the end of that month, I understood one thing clearly. There were only two possible endings now. Confess, and destroy the life we had built. Or stay silent, and slowly destroy myself. I just didn't know which one I was more afraid of. I cheated, and I didn't confess. Part 3. The choice I live with. I didn't confess the next day, or the day after that. Confession is easy in theory. In real life, it requires courage you don't always have when the moment comes, and the moment never feels right. Life continued. That was the strangest part. We went grocery shopping. We watched shows at night. We talked about plans we both pretended were real. My wife trusted me so completely that it felt cruel. And the longer I stayed silent, the more impossible confession became. I tried to convince myself that time would make it better. That guilt would fade. That memory would soften. That I could carry this alone. People don't talk enough about how convincing that lie can be. Emma eventually stopped messaging. Not dramatically, just gradually. Shorter replies, longer pauses, then silence. I felt relief, not sadness. Relief that one part of the lie was ending. The secret stayed, and it changed me. I became quieter, more careful. I avoided conflict, avoided honesty, avoided anything that could lead to real conversation. My wife noticed. She asked if something was wrong. I said no. That answer became automatic. At night, I imagined two futures. In one, I told her the truth. I saw her face change, heard the questions I didn't have good answers for, watched the life we built collapse under honesty. In the other, I stayed silent. We stayed together. We grew older, and I carried this secret into every shared memory. Neither future felt like peace. One evening, she asked me a question I wasn't prepared for. "Do you feel guilty about anything?" She asked it casually. not accusing, just curious. I froze. That was the closest I came to confessing. My mouth opened, closed. I shook my head. No, I said. She smiled, and the moment passed. After that, something inside me broke quietly. Not guilt, not fear, acceptance. I realized I wasn't staying silent for her anymore. I was staying silent because I didn't want to face the consequences. Because confession wouldn't make me noble. It would make me responsible. I don't tell this story because I want forgiveness. I tell it because silence has a cost people don't talk about. Years have passed now. We're still together. Most people would call that a happy ending. Sometimes, I do too. But happiness with a secret is different.